Welcome to Inside the Pack. With me, as always, is Dan Webster. I'm Michael Wazinski. Dan, welcome in to our first ever Inside the Pack following an Ice Wolves win.
What a great game, man! I tell you, looking at what the Ice Wolves were able to do on Saturday night in Odessa against the Jackalopes, to be able to come from behind the way they did, to have four different skaters score. What a great game! I'm looking forward to unpacking it with you and hearing what your impressions were, having been able to see it in person.
Well, it was a tremendous weekend for the Ice Wolves, and, obviously they would have loved to have gotten two on the road, but they got one, and that's what matters the most. They were able to get it on their 13th game of their inaugural season, so they are now 1-11-0-1. The first game, though, it was a kind of a turning point for the Ice Wolves. I even mentioned during my broadcast that you said on Sunday was going to be a kind of turning point for the team in general, after having a very close game with the Lone Star Brahmas, unfortunately losing 3-1. But again, a very tight game. The shots were almost even, so that kind of momentum carried them out to the Ector County Coliseum in Odessa, Texas, where they went up against the 6th seed in the South Division, the Odessa Jackalopes. But it was really just missed opportunities for the Ice Wolves. They had a breakout play about 16 seconds into the first period of game number 1 on the weekend. Frisk was on the left side. It was kind of a turnover in the neutral zone, and he went the other way with it. But he came down the left wing. Gabrielson was on the right side, and the puck ended up on Gabrielson's stick, but he actually fed it to the post and not the back of the net, unfortunately, resulting in the net being knocked off. It was no goal, yada yada. And then after that, you could see the Odessa Jackalopes kind of finding their groove. It really all started with Matt Hutton. He ended up getting the game-winning goal because the score was 2-0. So he scored the first goal of the weekend back in the first period, and then after him, it was Connor Scahill, who had a phenomenal shot. One of the three captains for the Odessa Jackalopes. Not often that you see three captains. You usually will see 1 and 2As like we have on the Ice Wolves roster. But Connor Scahill, the defenseman from Clyde, Michigan, he picked up his second goal on the season with that shot coming from Friday. But it was a huge slap shot from the top of the left point and just whizzed right past Josh Langford. After that, it was a scoreless 40 minutes of play. So very tight battle. Shots were 22-20 in favor of Odessa. Those extra 2 shots were, turned out to be pretty pivotal as they won 2-0.
Well, as I said, after the last home game that we had with the Lone Star Brahmas, the fact that we were able to put 30 shots up on the board said to me that this team had found its offensive legs, and I was just obviously after the first period when I saw it was 2-0 Odessa on Saturday night. I thought, oh no, come on, boys! I know you can pull this out. And besides, I had predicted it was either going to be 2 wins or 1 win at least, that they were going to pull it out after that. I think it was that, as I said before, the pivotal game, the second home game we had against the Lone Star Brahmas. That was a pivotal moment, I think, in this team, the gelling and coming together as a team. And I think you saw that on the ice on Saturday night in Odessa, that they really came together and it was a full team effort.
Absolutely. I mean, that was, granted, like they really should have had Friday's game. When you talk to the players and the coaching staff, they really knew that they missed a few chances. But I would honestly say that they still were hungry for more on Saturday, getting not only their first win, but the most goals ever in Ice Wolves history in a game at 4. Not only that, but they had not one shorthanded goal, but 2 shorthanded goals and a total of 3 special team goals. So it was just a tremendous effort all around, but I would say special teams by far was the biggest component. They only had 1 power play opportunity during the entire 60 minutes on Friday's game. Odessa had 5, and at one point they even had a 5-on-3 man advantage. Luckily for them, or for the Ice Wolves, they were able to kind of kill that 5-on-3 off, but Odessa did capitalize on one of their power play opportunities. They came into the weekend dead last while on the man advantage, and they converted on their second one on Friday and then converted on their very first one on Saturday. But it was nice to see, New Mexico getting out there trying to increase their special team percentages, not just on the power play, but on the penalty kill as well. That, again, has kind of been struggling early on this season, but I can tell it has been improving steadily with all the practices.
Well, I certainly was disappointed with the score on Friday night, but in terms of physical play on Friday night, the Ice Wolves clearly owned the ice when it came to physical play. I mean, the hits that they were taking. They had a couple of physical altercations that happened, and but there was no question that this team was playing a physical game of hockey on Friday night. What I'm really kind of curious, tell me about those 2 shorthanded goals. It's rare to see a shorthanded goal in hockey, period. To see 2 in the same game in the same period is amazing.
Yeah, that's the thing. You kind of don't expect that coming from a broadcast or maybe even from a player's perspective. You're like, great, we're going to be out here killing this for an entire 2 minutes. You don't really necessarily expect to be, hey, we're going to score on this shorthanded opportunity. It doesn't come too often, but when it does, it's a huge momentum boost. And I think that's what, momentum is a big factor in any sports, and just in life in general. You kind of always want to make sure you are riding it as long as you can. And I think after they got that first one, they knew they could get another one. So basically what happened was Makash got called for a high sticking in the third period. And he ended up, sitting for 2 minutes. It was no blood or anything on the Jackalope player. So just a 2-minute minor for high sticking for Makash. I'd say right around the halfway point, maybe a little after that, there was a few, Jackalopes didn't seem too well off on that man advantage. They did have a power play goal back in the first period during that game on Saturday. But during that one, they really did struggle trying to keep the puck in the Ice Wolf zone, try the work that, free man around to get shots on Graziano. But they weren't able to do that. It was a lot of good defensive play by the Ice Wolves, kind of breaking up the puck along the boards, just getting in the way of a Jackalope pass, and it kind of created a turnover. The Ice Wolves went the other way. Leading it was Drew Lawrenchak along the near side on the left corner, and just took a shot from the left circle. Basically a carbon copy of Griffin Sandom's goal. I mean, if you look at them side by side, there might be a slight difference on maybe where the puck angled up into the net. But both of them were in the near side circle in the offensive zone. Sandom had his in the second period, so we were going the opposite way from when Drew Lawrenchak had his in the third. But again, still near side shots from the circles, and both of them went far side on Max Miller, who was in net for Saturday's game. Aaron Randazzo was in net for Friday's game, but they were able to just kind of find that little opening right by the left arm. It just went up and over Miller's arm, and I think Sandoms might have even just went a little far past it. I think Miller was kind of cheating more to the near post, and Sandom just took a great snapshot far side, and that was the first goal the first of 4 for the Ice Wolves during that Saturday's game. But, after that, first shorthanded goal in Ice Wolves history, Drew Lawrenchak, the assistant captain for the Ice Wolves. Momentum was still building, and I believe it was about, just under 10 seconds left. There was a costly turnover right in the neutral zone. And going the other way with it was Emil Gabrielson, and and they had another Ice Wolf. I forget the number off the top of my head, and a Jackalope player hustling back to defend or try to get in the way of Gabrielson's shot. He was well off from the left circle and kind of just shot it towards net in hopes that maybe an Ice Wolf would be there to get the rebound or what have you, and it careened right off of the Jackalope player and into the back of the net. And that happened with 4 seconds left to go on Makash's minor. So all that kind of dwindled down to 2 shorthanded goals on the same penalty taken to Michael Makash, who was just energized and electrified in the bench or in the penalty box. Usually you see guys that they're in the box, their heads down, but when their team's scoring 2 shorthanded goals, I wrote that in the recap that's on our website at nmicewolves.com. Feel free to check that out. But what I said in there, and what even I said on air, was that will go down as the best penalty the Ice Wolves have ever taken through 13 games thus far. No other penalty that they've taken were they able to score 1 goal off of, or let alone score 2. So I think it was tremendous by them. I know, obviously, I bring that up to them. They're going to say, well, we don't want to take penalties. That's obvious. But, when you could take, even if you do take a penalty, when you can produce shorthanded goals, that's a huge confidence boost to the special teams.
I've got to believe this young team came out of Saturday night feeling like they really are winners. And obviously going in with 10 losses and an overtime loss, that's got to affect the mentality of the team, and just knowing. I mean, shorthanded goals are so rare that to get 2 was just huge. It was immensely huge, and so I've got to believe that bus ride home was. I mean, the players had to be just thrilled.
Yeah, they really were. It was smiles all around. I mean, I was shaking. I had goosebumps during that last minute. I got to chat, with the head coach, Phil Fox, who got his first ever win as a head coach. Used to play in this league way back in the day. I shouldn't say how long ago, but I'll just say he got 97. Sorry, my apologies. He got 97 games played, 55 goals during that 97 game span. And he played for the Fargo Moorhead Jets, no longer a team anymore. Played for them for 2 seasons. And then back in 05-06, he was named to the NAHL First All-Star team. So he obviously knows what it takes to play at this level. The associate head coach, Keenan Kelly, was a coach for the Austin Bruins, who are currently still in this league. He was a coach for them for the last few seasons, so he's been around this level for quite some time. To see their reaction and to really just get to talk to Phil one-on-one, he was talking to, I think, the equipment manager for the Jackalopes, and I bumped into him, and he just grinned once he saw me. It was a big hug, embrace, and I was like, "What did that last minute feel for you?" Or what did that last minute feel like for you? And he said, in 2 words, an eternity. And I thought that was perfectly summed up. I chatted with Graziano on the way out of the rink too, and I asked him the same question. He obviously was calm, cool, and collected. He didn't want to say anything. I mean, maybe in the back of his mind, he felt like it dragged on because, again, there was about 12 seconds left to go in regulation, and there was a shot after a near side offensive zone draw for the Jackalopes. They won it back. Again, their netminder is pulled to give them the 6-on-5. And they have it in the right circle of the Ice Wolves zone, and they were able to get it out to the slot and take a quick shot. Luckily, Graziano made a spectacular save. But again, that was another time where it was like, okay, we have to keep dragging this last few. I felt like every 3-5 seconds I was looking at the clock, saying it, and I apologize to anybody out there that will listen to the game if I oversaid this time. Usually, you try to say it about a minute and a half in, from a broadcaster's perspective, especially sometimes hockey TV's clock doesn't quite sync up right, so you want to make sure you're saying it for the people at home. But I felt like I was definitely oversaying it, but so much was on the line.
And you've got to don't apologize, because when you have the thing about hockey, yes, there's a clock to beat, but some of those minutes can just drag on. And so for you to be saying, that there's 35 seconds left, or there's and then just moments later, there's a whistle and you're, whatever it is, don't apologize, because that's part of the drama.
Yeah.
That, you can get more in a minute in hockey than you can get in any other sport that has a clock. Trust me. And so even more than basketball, and I know that that's going to upset some people, but this sport is so exciting. And for the coach who's got as much experience as Phil Fox does at this level, to say that last minute felt like an eternity says everything.
Oh, absolutely. And going back to what you were saying about basketball, like, for me, I like the fast-paced games. That's why hockey's my favorite sport. I don't like the fact that basketball, you get 6 timeouts and they're all used in the last minute or two. And, you could probably, spend the next 20 minutes watching the last 3 or so. But it really did feel like that last minute felt like 5 in real time. I mean, the Jackalopes ended up calling a timeout. It really just dragged on and on. There was a lot, unfortunately, we couldn't get the puck in the empty net. That would have been a huge weight off my shoulders, at least, because by then it basically would have sealed the deal for us. But they had a few looks down at the end, but there were a lot of times where they would get it down there and then it would be icing. So then there's a whistle, and then they slowly come all the way back up. Or Graziano makes the save. He's not going to play it out. He's going to get the whistle. So another whistle to set up, allow his team to make changes. Odessa did as well. So, again, it was just a very tough and long last few minutes of play. And, I mean, they were up 4-3 ever since Gabrielson scored on that shorthanded with about halfway through the third. So they played almost, 9 to 10 minutes of, while leading the game, which they haven't done they haven't done that often. They haven't done that too much this season. They kind of, they were tied 2-2 after the second period. It was a very early goal by the Jackalopes. Number 4, John Serafin, from the top of the right point, just fed it right through a screen, and it worked its way through past Graziano. And then, again, they had to play from behind that got those 2 shorthanded goals, and just like that, they were back in the driving seat. It was a phenomenal way to end the weekend. The locker room was amazing. I mean, they were jamming out. I could hear it from the press box. I'm about 20 rows back and on the second level, so I'm super high up at the Coliseum. And they're all the way down in the left corner, basically, and still underneath. And, I mean, you can hear the guys, wooing and just, I mean, so Garvey was out for 2 games due to his penalty he picked up in Lone Star on that game 2. He ended up hitting roof, towards the head area. So he was out for 2 games. So he missed the Sunday matinee game here at the Outpost Ice Arenas, and then missed game 1. So he was eager to get back. I caught up with him on the bus for our Where To Now podcast, kind of deeming that the title because, again, it's, our travels, here and there. Again, we're now 5 weeks or so on home ice, so no more travel podcast. But, again, there will be a lot to come towards the second half of the season, especially after this long homestead for us. But, I saw him after the game. He was one of the first players back in his suit to get ready, dress code wise. You want to look professional. And I was walking down and packed all my stuff up, and he just came up to me and gave me the biggest grin. He's got probably the best personality, one of the best on the team, I would say. It loves, big talker. He's always a fun guy to be around with, and just came up and, gave me a big hug. And it felt like really we all collectively there were no words. I was writing the recap, and I deleted it. I didn't really like how it sounded, but I thought to mention it today. There were no words in the English language to describe the feeling that I had when that game ended. I mean, I could have said 20 different words if I wanted to, but not one of them would have been, you know, up to standards or even kind of portrayed what it really felt like to be there to grind out 13 games. I mean, that was only my second travel with the team. Um, I get to do 54 games with these guys, and I'm lucky enough to, or 56, my apologies, and I missed the 4 at the showcase, but I'm just lucky enough to get to be around all these guys all the time, practicing. They had a very fun day-to-day. Scrimmaging staff was out there, head coach, equipment manager, the assistant coaches as well. Everybody was kind of just having a good day today at following that win. So much needed for them too, because you have to celebrate a little bit, and they did on the bus. It was a great trip back, obviously the best one yet, with the win in the pocket. But now they have to do it on home ice, Dan.
And for you to admit to us that you had no words, for a man who can call a hockey game with as many words as you do, that's saying something. Just in and of itself, that's saying something. And I certainly can understand, given the absolute turnaround that this team has now made. They have told themselves, they have proven to themselves that they can win and even score when the odds are against them. And so the amount of self-confidence that has got to exist in every brain bucket on that team is immense now. And I think that this is going to set us up for a great 11-game homestand. I think that if you have come out to the Outpost Ice Arenas here on Tramway, just right near the County Line Barbecue, and seen a game, you're going to see a different team now, because they have gelled and they have finally broken through all of these rookies. There's so many rookies on this team that they have now gelled into a unit, I think. And I think we're going to see some exciting hockey throughout the month of October and early November here at the Outpost Ice Arenas.
I really do think we are, Dan. I mean, this team has what it takes to be a contender. They're not a pretender, that's for sure. This team isn't going to, struggle. This isn't going to be their first win, and they're going to go, the next 2 months without one. That's not going to happen. Odessa, a very beatable team. From what I've seen, I haven't seen Corpus yet. We haven't seen Topeka yet. We won't see Corpus, honestly, until November 29th. We go on the road for those 2 games. But we'll get a chance to see Fairbanks for the first time. While they're not in our division, we played them and Kenai 4 times, 2 home, 2 on the road. So basically how the homestead works, again, 11 straight games, about 5 weeks for home games here at the Outpost Ice Arenas. It all starts with the Pink in the Rink next weekend, October 25th and the 26th. All Friday games for us will be at 7:30 p.m. All Saturday games will be at 7 p.m., with the exception of that one Thursday game being at 6:15. Lone Star comes to town. We wrap up the 11 straight home games with Lone Star November 21st, the 22nd, and the 23rd. So 6:15, 7:30, and 7 o'clock for those 3 games. But everything else has basically just been 7:30, 7 o'clock, our typical home series for that. As much as it was nice to win, again, it was the sweetest victory you could possibly have, because it took 13 games. This isn't like, it was their first loss. This isn't like, it was the 3rd game. This was, lucky number 13 for them.
Right.
I said that in the, recap. I said many people say 13 is not a lucky number.
Only triskaidekaphobias. Triskaidekaphobics.
But the Ice Wolves would have to disagree with you, as they picked up their first win on the 13th game. They're now 1-11, 0-1 on the season, with a lot of momentum, a lot of smiles, and I think they're really starting to get the chemistry to where it needs to be to play in this tough South Division. I mean, the Maine Nordiques entered basically this weekend at about 500. They're the other brand new team for this season, but they don't have as many rookies as we do. They do have a handful, but they have a lot of veteran experience as compared to the Ice Wolves. We're coming at the youngest team, just over 18 years age at an average, and Lone Star's the oldest at over 19. So imagine what these teams are going to look like next year when you see Lone Star lose out on about, I think they had 16 99s. So they're going to miss 16 players next year. They're going to have some. They're going to have some really good recruiting, in order to be a force next season and really just make a name for themselves for 2020, 2021. And Wichita Falls will be brand new next season. So that's another team who might, is going to come in by themselves. Who knows that they're going to have a roster like the Ice Wolves with a lot of young talent on their team, but just not able to gel well because they're brand new. And that's the thing. You got to pay your dues, no matter what team you are. And it sucks that they are in the South Division, because of the tough contest. Two of the last three Robertson Cup winners came out of this division. It's not an easy division to go into brand spanking new. So a little special guest, Michael McCosh, who was sniping them during the scrimmage today, is in here just looking at some twigs. So, but yeah, it was a great atmosphere at the game, but it's going to be even better once they finally get one on home ice.
Well, fans, you've got a hockey team now that has come through some really tough times, and they have shown that they have got the spirit, and they are really exciting. They're going to be really exciting to watch after this win on Saturday in Odessa. This is going to be a different team. So if you think that the team that you have seen here at home did pretty well, wait till you see what the new team's going to look like.
Yeah, it's a growing league. It's called the League of Opportunity for a reason. We're now going to be at 27 teams next year, so a little odd amount. Have to see if the South kind of sticks with their 8 teams. That would be the most out of any division. We're at 7 right now. So things will jostle. It's not going to look picture perfect next year. And scheduling will be different as well. But you got to think that this team is on the verge of making something spectacular. And it's really. I said this. I kind of went on a little bit of a rant per se. After the first period of Saturday's game, just talking about in general what it's like at this age to be, Max Tobin, who will be out for at least 2 weeks, upper body injury for him. He is 16 years old, and that's the youngest you can be in this league. 16 to 20 is the age limit. But playing at this level, going up against guys that have been in this league for 3 years, it's not easy. You really have to grind it out, and a lot of these guys, as much as they like to say it, some of them come in from the summer and getting the camps and stuff like that and are out of shape until they really get into that workout regimen that the coaching staff puts them on. They got to stick with that. Nutrition is a big thing too, and with all those combined, you can really improve yourself and develop yourself and your skill throughout the season. And that's what we saw Sunday against Lone Star. I think they finally were able to gel with one another and start making good passes to one another from top to bottom. I think the biggest takeaway as well would be the fact that the offense didn't change from Friday to Saturday. There was not one roster move, no jostling of lines or anything. On the offensive side. On the defensive side, we did see, obviously, Garvey was in the lineup with Tobin out, and we did see a few changes on there, like Keenan Johnson slid from the second line defense up to the first. Brandon Holt dropped from the first to the third. He got paired up with Garvey. But, that's the thing. Like, the defense is where it really is different than the offense, because on the defense, we really just have Sean Henry and Keenan Johnson that have big experience in this league. Sean Henry played 32 games, I believe, for the Maryland Black Bears last season. Keenan Johnson's 20-year-old vet who has played for Topeka and Corpus, so he knows the South Division very well. But Keegan Langfells is a rookie, Holt rookie, John Garvey rookie, Martin's, all those guys. Tobin's a rookie. So it's the defense that really has been stepping up. And my biggest thing from Saturday's game was Brandon Holt. I thought he played a very good defensive game. He was laying down on the ice to block a shot. He had a huge dive in the third period. I believe it was the third period, late in the game, and he just was able to lay it out and negate a kind of sauce pass to the left side for the Jackalopes. And they were, from top to bottom, it was the best 60-minute game I've seen out of the Ice Wolves.
Well, it had to be, given the score, given the fact that it was come from behind, given the fact that the first two goals were scored by Odessa. It had to be a good balance of offense and defense. If the defense hadn't held up their end of the bargain, it could have been a very lopsided score going the other way. Obviously, this is a team that has now, I think, found its stride. This is a team that I think is found a good balance between offense and defense, and I'm just looking forward to some really exciting games the rest of this month and into November.
So we go up against Shreveport this coming weekend. Pink in the Rink, huge games for us. Odessa had their Pink in the Rink this past weekend. So again, they had to compete with high school football in Texas, which is huge down there.
Of course.
Friday night, so their turnout wasn't as high as they were hoping for, but Saturday they got a big turnout, a lot of Pink in attendance, and hopefully we can see more of the same this weekend.
So Pink in the Rink is what Mike's talking about, and this is the support that the New Mexico Ice Wolves are going to give to the American Cancer Society. There will be opportunities to support the American Cancer Society financially here with game-worn jerseys, etc. So if you've been holding that pink blouse or that pink shirt for a special occasion, come out this weekend to the Outpost Ice Arenas and support this effort to defeat breast cancer. I am sure that every one of us could name at least one, if not 3 or 4 or 5 people we know in our lives who have had to either live with breast cancer or have lost their battle to breast cancer, and especially those of us of a certain age who have known just a lot of people. Let's remember them. Come out, support the team, support the American Cancer Society. Wear pink in the stands. Get your tickets at nmicewolves.com and come out for this weekend's games. You're going to enjoy a good hockey game, and you're going to support the American Cancer Society.
The biggest thing for the month of October is obviously Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and each kind of type of cancer has their own month, but with breast cancer, you tend to see, again, a lot of these Pink the Rinks and a lot more because it affects everybody. And not saying that the other types don't as well. You just you see it more often with the breast cancer specialty nights and stuff like that. While the Jackalopes didn't do specialty jerseys this past weekend, they did. Every player had pink tape on their sticks, on their blades, and they all had pink laces to show support for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Another big thing I would say was that I also saw a lot of people wearing pink Odessa Jackalopes jerseys, maybe from years prior, that they did breast cancer awareness, specialty jerseys for, and that's something that the Ice Wolves will be doing for the very first time in their history this weekend. They will be donning pink jerseys. You'll have a chance to win those after Saturday's game. Again, they're wearing them Friday and Saturday, so you'll have to stick around. I believe it's a live auction. So make sure you stick around after the game, have a chance to win. We're doing a bunch of stuff, and then all the money will be going to charity and to help fight this horrible, horrible disease.
one of my best friends from my years in the news business. In fact, we both worked for the company that Stan Hubbard's family owned in Minnesota. She texted me on Friday night while I was up here watching the game that you were calling. And on one of the other monitors up here at the outpost was the Capitals Rangers game. Well, she texted me with a picture that said, "Look where I am," and she was at the Capitals Rangers game at the Capital One Arena in Washington D.C. And she's a big Rangers fan. She grew up in New York City,
Oh, wow.
but she's been living with breast cancer now for a few years, and she's got some really good news lately, and so I'll be thinking about her this Friday and Saturday night with Pink in the rink here at the Outpost Ice Arena, and so many other friends and acquaintances and colleagues from both of my careers. So come out and support the Ice Wolves, support the American Cancer Society, wear pink, and just have a great time and watch some good hockey.
It certainly will be. I mean, not only great hockey, but a great atmosphere. If we can start making sure we get those sellouts going, and keep that consistency. The team won, which I know maybe a lot of people were hesitant to maybe keep coming back. You're always going to get those 300 fans that are just diehard hockey fans, or maybe 400 or so that will always come. No matter what the record of the team is, because they just like hockey that much. But it's that extra handful that you want to try to draw in that maybe are hesitant to show up to games, if the team isn't performing well, and that's understandable. I've seen, but you do always have to at least support them and be encouraging on our social media and really just back the team, because again, they are, the first team since nearly a decade, the last NAHL team to play in New Mexico, played out of the Santa Ana Arena. To finally have junior hockey here, it's great, fast pace. I mean, you got the University of New Mexico Lobos, club hockey that also plays out of this, out of the Outpost. So there's some great atmosphere here. We just have to keep getting people into the door, and hopefully they keep wanting back. Keep coming back for more. There's a lot of home games to pick and choose from. Again, every Friday is 7:30. Every Saturdays at 7, and then that Thursday game, the lone one against Lone Star, will be at 6:15. So that's a 3-3 for us. So that will be a long stretch to end, and then after that they go on the road for 3 straight weekends. So it's kind of, the schedule isn't every other, like some teams have it. So here, we have to take advantage of all these home games in a row. Shreveport, we hung with them in our very first game of our inaugural season. We unfortunately lost 2-0. The following night was an unfavorable one. It was 6-1 in favor of Shreveport. They really kind of got things going in the late stages and really just piled on the goals in the third. But I think we'll see a really tough matchup this weekend compared to those very first 2 games. I think
we're a different team now.
Absolutely,
we are a different team than the team that played Shreveport.
Our roster is completely different from day one,
and so this is going to be totally different. And a reminder: if you're a skater and you want to bring somebody up here to do some skating, you can skate on the other sheet that is up here at the Outpost Ice Arenas between periods if you want, and then you can pay $10 for a ticket to stand at the corner to look through the glass. You can stand and watch. Talk about skating room only. I mean, that would be an exciting thing to do. So bring your skates or come and rent some skates. Get on the ice in the tunnels, the curling tunnels that link both sheets together, and you can just have just the best time watching hockey through the glass in the corners. And so that's what you can do this weekend. That's what you can do every weekend. There's going to be a lot of great hockey here for the rest of the month of October and into November.
Well, joining us now is Alex Dominique, and Alex, it's a pleasure to have you on Inside the Pack. You're our first special guest here, and we didn't have one last week. But again, welcome into Inside
Thank
the
you.
Pack.
Appreciate it.
So we kind of just want to go, back and forth. Well, obviously, Dan will, he wasn't traveling with us, but I'm sure he's got plenty of questions for you and maybe what the vibe was following that win. But for me especially, I mean, what you guys did on special teams was something that you haven't done all season. And what was that like for you, not only to get things going, but you got the power play goal, and then to see Mikosh's penalty really pay off tremendously for you guys. And it's not often that somebody gets to say that. But to score 2 short-handed goals on the same penalty, I mean, what does that do for a team's morale?
I mean, it was huge for us, especially with all the penalties we have this year. I'm pretty sure we're the most penalized team, so to finally overcome that and score 3 shorthanded goals, I think it was great for us, and it helped us win the game for sure.
Well, and, with your goal, you kind of took things over and kind of controlled it from your own zone. What was that like? I mean, you're one of the quickest players on the team. Did you got past the guy basically in the neutral zone, and then the defense, you caught them flat-footed, and you kind of just slid it right underneath the pads of Miller. Why don't you take take the fans at home through that tremendous goal? Maybe even describe it a little better than I did.
Yeah, I mean, I've done it to them in a preseason also. So I took a look at the defense that was out there, and I noticed who it was. So I made sure I was like, all right, I know who's out there. So I knew they were kind of slow, and they gave me an angle. So I just saw a hole there, and I went right through it. I kind of lost the puck, but I got it back really quickly and slid in between the goalie's legs. So definitely took advantage of their big, slow defensemen.
Alex, you and I've said this on the broadcast before. You are one of the best skaters on the team.
Thank you.
It's really fun to watch you. You're only 5'9", 154?
Oh no, I'm 5'11".
5'11".
Yeah.
But 154. So when you have taken hits, I've seen you take some hits that man, there was one punch that you got to the face right up in the glass here at one of the home games. It doesn't stop you.
Yeah, I mean, I always check to see who's in front and behind me. It's called a shoulder check. Always got to do that to make sure that you don't get blown up. It's definitely important. I think it'll help you get to the next level and avoid big hits. So it's important.
So the game that the last home game that we had on that Saturday, my prediction was that the team really, when you got 30 shots on goal, that was the turning point of the season so far for this team. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. I think ever since that second period last weekend, we've been playing really well as a team. We've been moving the puck very well. We added a couple players too. They've been a huge factor for our win, and I think going forward we'll be much better now.
So what are you hearing from the friends back in Mississauga, Ontario?
Yeah, I got a couple friends watching the games, and they're liking it. I mean, they like the environment, the place. I think this is the right team. We just got to start winning, and hopefully that comes now. This will be a fun year if we could pull it together and make the playoffs.
Well, obviously it would be a Cinderella story for you guys,
Yep.
And kind of said that in my recap how, the number 13 is pretty unlucky, but for you guys it's extremely lucky now. It took a lot longer than I'm sure everybody anticipated, but now you guys are on the right track. I think personally, a few missed chances here and there could have been crucial to maybe even sweeping Odessa, but I think they are one of the teams that every time we play them for the rest of the season. We only have 4 more meetings against them, though. But I think they're a team that look pretty beatable.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The matchup from roster to their roster, I think it favors us. And, I think Randazzo is very good in net for them, but I think you guys were really able to take advantage of having Miller for them in between the pipes. I mean, Drew Lawrenchak and Santam's goals were basically almost carbon copy of one another's from the same basically same circle on the near side and far side shots that got past them. So, but now we'll see a lot of new faces as well. We'll go up against Shreveport for the first time this coming weekend, something that hasn't happened since game 1 and 2 of the season. But then we'll also see Topeka and Fairbanks. So what is it like now? We're getting away from kind of the familiar faces and seeing some new ones.
I think it'll be a challenge for us, but I think we're ready for it. We're gonna have a solid week of practice. Shreveport, we know who they are. The first game we lost 2-0. One of the goals they scored a 5-on-3. So, and then the second game, obviously we got plagued with penalties. But I think if we can get it together and stop taking penalties and play 5-on-5 the way we've been playing lately, I think we'll be pretty good to at least split with some of these teams and hopefully sweep a couple of them. That's the goal right now.
Well, you guys again are still with 3 points thus far this season. Odessa's at 12; they're 6th place in the division. A lot of teams are up there. Topeka's having one heck of a start to the season. The Ice Rays and Odessa played 6 straight games after Odessa came here for our home opening weekend, and Corpus won 5 of them. So they were able to get 10 points against one team basically, and really kind of have their way with Odessa during that long stretch. And we don't see them for quite some time either. But what is it like playing at this level, seeing the constant, fresh faces on the come in the league? We're a very young team. We enter this season at the youngest, and we've had a few more older guys join us here in the last week or so. But what is it like for you? You're one of the newest guys on the team as well. I mean, how does that feel to know that you got Griffin Sanum out there producing? You have you're one of the assistant captains, Drew Lawrenchak, Emil Gabrielson, who has a few games under his belt already during the season. And what is that like for you? From a player's perspective.
It's great. It's great to see Griffin finally score. He's had so many chances and he's been playing great lately, I think. And he broke the ice. Emil, he's great too. Drew also. We've all been scoring as of late. Before we were on a huge drought in goals and stuff, and now we scored our season high 4 goals in a game. So, I think it'll be we'll be able to keep going in that direction, and hopefully we'll win games because in the North South, it's pretty low scoring games. Most teams like Corpus, they only score about 2 goals a game, but they only let in 1. So if we could really score some goals and defend well, I think we'll be able to win more games now.
My biggest thing to Phil after I wrapped up and I was walking downstairs, you guys were still getting changed and kind of packing everything up for the bus. I walked up to him, asked him what that last minute felt like because again there were a lot of stoppages. Odessa called a timeout. It seemed like it dragged on forever. He described it in 2 words as an eternity. What was that last minute for you like?
It was like a playoff game, honestly. I even told Griffin on the bench, I was like, man, this time needs to run quicker. Please just the clock milk down. And it was pretty long too, man. Every face-off counted, every play. We had to really sell out to win that, and that's what it took. That's what it's going to take to win every game from now on.
The energy, it just seemed, just even reading about it, the energy just seemed to be over the top for you guys in that final minute. What was going through? What was going through? Was your heart racing? What was going on?
Everything, man. Heart was racing indeed, but we were mostly focused, on that clock. It was running down quick, and we were just like, please, don't let it go, just clear it out. That was the goal. Just get the puck out and play defense, and that was it.
So when you came here, did you expect to be the leading goal scorer for the New Mexico Ice Wolves this early in the season?
It was definitely a goal. You want to put that in your mind. You want to get points. It's hard to get points in this league, so I'm definitely fortunate to be in this position now, and I want to keep going with the help of my teammates too. Help them score too and stuff like that. So,
Alex, I just have one thing I noticed. I think maybe even you guys did as well. There was not one roster move, one line change going into Saturday's game. The roster stayed exactly the same. Every line pair stayed the same. Are you guys finally starting to find that chemistry amongst the lines? Because I think the first line of Frisk, Gabrielson, and Ekberg almost got a goal 14 seconds, 16 seconds, whatever it was, into game 1. Unfortunately, Gabrielson hit the post with a shot, and then the net was knocked off. But your line with Sanum and Rudrud on the wing. I mean, Rudrud also had a backhand chance. He just hit the outside of the net. But what is it? You and Sanum scored the first 2 goals on Saturday's game. What is it about these lines that are finally starting to click?
Well, we had a full good week of practice using these same lines finally, and I think that played a big factor in how we played. I thought our first game we played good. Of course we took a bit too many penalties, and they scored. We couldn't find one, but coach trusted us, trusted the lines, and we got it done the second game. I believe these are the right lines for now. I think we'll be good for this weekend too if we have another good week of practice like we did last weekend.
My biggest thing is, obviously momentum's a huge factor, and there's a long, delay between games from Saturday to Friday. How are you guys going to be able to manage that momentum to, especially in front of the hometown crowd, to try to get your first win in Albuquerque, New Mexico?
I think it's a mindset. We're gonna play this game with a whole different mindset instead of it being, oh, here we go again. Now it's like, wow, we just won. It's a great feeling. We already can't wait to play on Friday. Other weekends it was kind of just like, whatever. Now it's like we just cannot wait for Friday to come, and we're super confident in what we can do. So we believe we could come out this weekend with a win and 2. So a win or 2.
So you've moved across the country from Ontario to New Mexico. What about Albuquerque? What about New Mexico have you found to be really exciting, or just something that you want to do more of?
I mean, I think the food here is really good. I really like the food here. The mountains are really nice. We went hiking at the beginning of the year. That was pretty fun. I think we're definitely in one of the best cities for junior hockey for sure. Like, we go in places like Odessa, and it's like, I'm so lucky to be here. Like, this is definitely one of the nicer places.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you. I love living in Albuquerque.
Yep,
it's a good place. So you talk about the food. The official state question is red or green.
Oh man, I actually haven't even tried it yet. Honestly, I haven't tried chili. I will try. I heard Christmas is the best one. Both. So I'll be looking forward to try that sometime soon. But
not too many states have an official state question. And
really?
Yeah. So,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. So, will you be looking for any poutine here, do you think?
Definitely not. I don't think people know what that is here. So.
Yeah, well, from somebody who lived on the East Coast, there was a great hamburger place in Baltimore, Clark's Burgers, and they had really good poutine.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any of that here. Do you know? No.
Not off the top of my head, but I do think, again, I'm from Pennsylvania, so, just outside of Philadelphia a little bit, and, everywhere I go, where I was at with Jamestown last year, they even had a Philly cheesesteak location. Really? And I thought I heard online when I, was talking with Stan, who owns the team and owns the rink and is so involved in this community. I could have sworn I saw something about Philly cheesesteak somewhere, but I haven't checked it out. I haven't really, dug any research up on that. But I do know that, the chili's phenomenal here. I definitely would recommend it. I haven't had the Christmas yet, but I've only had the green, and I really like it. I think it's not too spicy or anything. I know we got Blake's Lotta Burgers when we went to Balloon Fiesta, and some of the guys were saying it was spicy. So, some weren't.
Mine wasn't spicy.
But
so
yours,
I don't think I had any.
So yeah, I guess wrapping up here, to let you go. You guys kind of had a nice easy day following the win. The first practice basically after a win, and it was a nice scrimmage. You got involved with the staff, and what was it like seeing Phil Fox and Keenan Kelly out there, and Ben Danford and Kyle Falmer and the equipment manager AJ Goff?
It was fun. It was fun times. At practice, it was good to see everybody smiling at practice instead of the usual. Let's work hard and bag skate at the end. Now it's fine to be loose for once, but tomorrow we know we got to get right back to work. So it's all business here.
One last question for me, and then I'll hand things over to Dan towards the end here. But, going into that first game and of the weekend, when you saw your captain level McCormick, and he ended up leaving. He was down for quite some time. He was back in the lineup, surprisingly, though, on Saturday's game. And then the Henry and McCardell fight also in the second period. I mean, what did that do for you guys in terms of, just trying to spark something on the bench?
Yeah, it was huge. Personally, I got straight up on my feet when Keenan, hit that guy. It was huge. I thought it would give us momentum. I thought we had a pretty good third, but unfortunately we just couldn't score. But it gave us some momentum for the next game for sure. It does. It definitely helps to have a captain that can really lay the wood on some people out here.
Congratulations on the win. Congratulations on being the leading goal scorer.
Thank you.
And I just Googled poutine near me, and there are 4 places just popped right up. So
Really?
You're going to be able to find some poutine when you're jonesing for some poutine.
Perfect. Hopefully after a couple wins this weekend, I could stop by.
Absolutely. And, hopefully, again, we have 11 straight home games, plenty of action. We end it with 3 straight against Lone Star, Thursday, Friday, Saturday matchup. Out of all the teams we play throughout this 11-game stretch, I usually like to kind of sit down and ask the guys this, but from Shreveport, Fairbanks, Topeka, Amarillo, and then 3 straight against Lone Star, I know we haven't seen Fairbanks or Topeka, but what's a matchup that you're most eager to get to?
Definitely Lone Star. I'm ready this time. I thought the last game, that was our game to win. Unfortunately, their goalies made some pretty good saves at the end of the game. And we talk a lot. They kept telling us we're 0-12, we're 0-12. Well, now we're not 0-12 anymore, so they can't say that anymore. So I think we'll be a different team next time we play them. I mean, they're not gods. We've played with them. Every game we've had good periods where we've outshot them. So I think next time we'll definitely be ready and we'll win some.
Well, you definitely seem hungry to get to that matchup from November 21st to the 23rd. Again, Lone Star will be making their trip to Albuquerque, New Mexico for 3-3, basically 6:15 Thursday, 7:30 Friday, and then 7:05 on Saturday. All of our Friday matchups for the season are 7:30. All the Saturdays are at 7. So, Alex, I just want to thank you so much for joining us on Inside the Pack as our first ever player guest.
Thank you for having me.
And good luck the rest of the way. I mean, I know I'll be traveling with you guys, and we'll be doing this every Monday, so we'll have a lot to talk about. But 11 straight home games. We'll be here a lot throughout the next course of basically a month or so, and we're going to be talking a lot of Ice Wolves hockey, and hopefully we'll have a lot of wins to talk about too. I know you guys are. That was probably the best 60-minute game of the season. I mean, the game against Lone Star was super close as well. And then that first game this past weekend, as just one or two more bounces, would have went the Ice Wolves' way. It could have been a tie game, maybe even at least gotten a point out of it. So those little things, it's kind of all puck luck at some point. Maybe everybody's got to pray to the hockey gods. But a big thing after the game on Saturday, and we can kind of leave off on this, but everybody was kind of repeating and saying what they did this morning and how they woke up and what they did. Everybody's obviously got their own superstition, but was that something that came to your mind? You were like, okay, maybe I took a shower at this time, or took a pregame nap at this time. What was something for you that you looked back and you're like, okay, we got to keep doing the same thing because we finally got one?
I thought we had a pretty good pregame warm up in the hotel. We went outside, we ran, we stretched, we were super loose. I mean, we had nothing to lose at that point. I have my own superstitions that I can't tell, unfortunately. But, Coach knew straight from the warm-up in game. He knew we had plenty of energy, so he knew we were ready to go. I knew we were ready to go. I think everyone in the locker room knew that this was going to be the game.
I think, and I'll touch on this real quick, I think the biggest thing was we had that pregame lunch on Saturday afternoon at about 1 o'clock or so. We got Frizzoli's and just a little fast food Italian place. My first time eating it. I'm not sure for you. But they, towards the end of it, Phil, made an announcement saying everybody had to go around and pick one detail that they were going to do that game that they were going to execute once the puck dropped, and you couldn't repeat. And everybody went around. There was, I think, one time it repeated, so the one of the guys had to pick a new one. But it seemed I got a lot of defensive details out of it, which I think was the biggest component. I think guys were really getting in the shooting lanes, blocking a lot of shots. But and then when we got to the rink, prior, 2 hours or so before puck drop, Keenan reiterated it, and he said, "Remember the detail you said at lunch and execute it." And I think you guys did phenomenal. I was trying to remember everybody's. Again, there was about 24 or so. I was trying to remember. But I think everybody basically did exactly what they said they were going to do. I couldn't recall anybody that said one thing and just completely didn't do it. I think everybody stuck to that detail, and that's what really came away with that 60-minute win in the first one in the history of the Ice Wolves.
Yeah, in the room actually, right before the game and at every intermission, our assistant captain Drew was telling us to repeat what we were going to do to help this team win, and he was telling us to believe after we were down 2-0 in the first. So everyone was still believing. We knew they got 2 goals, quick, but we've been in that position before, and it was time to come back. So it wasn't time to feel sorry for ourselves, and that's what we did. Everyone held each other accountable, and we came back. So it was a whole team effort.
Well, and, again, it's so nice to get the monkey off your back. It took a little longer than everybody was hoping, but it's off the back now, and now it's just you guys got to keep chugging along, and this is a team that can really hold their own against a lot in the South Division, a very tough division compared to others. So, Alex, thanks so much for joining us. I'll let you go. Enjoy the rest of your day. I know you guys, again, have a light day today, no workouts or anything this afternoon, so enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and we'll see you back on the ice Friday,
Appreciate
Saturday.
It. Thank you for having me back here.
All right, Dan, now let's kind of just wrap up this podcast here. I just want to, the biggest thing I'd say that we touched on with Alex Dominique, the leading point scorer for your Ice Wolves, 3 goals, 3 assists for the Ontario native. My biggest thing for that weekend series was the big physical play. The South, it's very hot outside, and tempers kind of boil over inside the rink, and that's what we saw in the first game. It really started with about 17-7 left to go in the middle frame. Keenan Johnson, the captain for the Ice Wolves, was back checking at the Ice Wolves blue line. Graham McCormick, number 17 for Odessa, had the puck, and basically Keenan, instead of continuing to go back with a burst of speed that he had, went forward and just laid a textbook hit on McCormick. I mean, he went down instantly. The trainer had to come out. There was a towel to his face. He got up staggering. He played Saturday, which I thought was tremendous. He did wear a full shield. I believe his nose was broken on the hit. There was a lot of blood they had to get up from the ice. But after that, a big thing with Alex Dominique was that, which we maybe should have asked him as well. You were talking about how he got hit up high during one of the home games for us. But he ended up hitting a Jackalope player up against the boards. It wasn't a dirty hit. He didn't get called for it or anything, but it kind of sparked a little altercation. I think the Odessa team took exception to Alex's hit, leading to Sean Henry and Chase McCardell dropping the gloves and going after one another. So that was honestly the biggest component to me, was seeing, the physicality for the Ice Wolves step up. They were, they weren't backing down from anybody. And no matter what the score was, it was 2-0 after the first period on Friday's game, and it was 2-0 after the first period on Saturday's game. The only difference, they were able to come back on Saturday.
I want to go back to what Alex Dominique said in terms of if we can keep the penalties to a minimum. That's the key here. You don't want to give your opponent that power play opportunity as much as possible. Now, if you're going to play a physical game, that's going to be a challenge. There's no question, and it's going to depend on which way the referee of the night is going to go with whether he's going to be allowing some really good hits to happen, or if he's going to call it really tight. So I think that if they can do that, Alex is absolutely right. if they can keep their penalties to a minimum, this team can use, as you say, the chemistry is now there on the lines. The lines seem to have been set up really well. This is going to be an exciting team to watch starting this coming weekend.
Well, they came into the weekend third most in penalty minutes in the South Division with 177. Like I said, they had 5 go against them, 5 penalties called against them on Friday's game, so another 10 minutes there. And then I believe Odessa ended up going, I think, 1 for 5 again on Friday's game, so another 10. So basically, I think they are at 197 now, at least. But then you enter all those fighting majors in as well, so that jacks it up a little bit more than just a minor penalty. So they're probably somewhere in the 200s roughly, probably low 200s for them. The biggest thing for Henry was, though, that he got so both him and McCardell ended up getting a 5 and a 10 for fighting. That's generally the rule. You'll get a 5-minute major for fighting, and then also a 10-minute misconduct for fighting. If you fight with under 5 minutes left to go in the third period, it's a league rule. You are suspended for 1 game. So they didn't fight in the third, they fought in the second, but Henry continued the altercation, leading to a game misconduct for him after the linesmen were trying to break it up. And
linesmen, I saw that linesmen were trying to break it up, and he kept bringing, and you were calling it just like it was in the rink somewhere.
Like Rock'em Sock'em Robots almost. Yeah. And Henry definitely came out victorious. I mean, neither one of them went to the ice, but I think if we were scoring this based off of boxing, I think you'd have to go with punches landed, and that was in Henry's favor for sure. But he was he didn't get suspended or anything. He played in the following night, this past Saturday, so that was good for him. But he is a guy that likes to drop him when he can, and he is a guy that's not going to back down from it at all. So it was good to see him get involved in the mix of things, and kind of just try to spark the team. And like Alex said, he was up on his feet during that fight and during the big hit, and unfortunately they couldn't come back. But that is what you want out of not only your captain, but out of one of the new guys on the team too. Henry, he's only got a few games under his belt in an Ice Wolves jersey, coming from the Maryland Black Bears, so he is a guy that has a lot of games in the NAL recorded, and he is a guy that will look to be a dominant force and kind of a vocal guy on the back end, on the defensive end for the Ice Wolves, along with Keenan Johnson. But it kind of all boiled down to such a good overall game and weekend for the Ice Wolves. Unfortunately, they split the weekend with Odessa, but now, it's nice that they picked up the one on Saturday. Had they won Friday and then maybe lost on Saturday, maybe the vibe would have been a little different. But to pick up the win on the way out of Odessa, huge momentum boost for them going into this coming weekend against the Shreveport Mudbugs, who are one of the most penalized teams in the league. So for them, if the special teams unit for the Ice Wolves can really kind of stay disciplined and convert on the man advantages, they're going to have a really good opportunity. Shreveport leads the South Division in penalty minutes after this weekend, but they started with 261 going into Friday. And again, the Ice Wolves were at 177. So, like Alex was saying, if you can stay disciplined in this South Division and not take penalties, you're going to be in really good shape.
So go to nmicewolves.com, get your tickets for this Friday and Saturday night. This is going to be a new team. You have not seen this team yet. The team that gelled in Odessa is going to be playing at home this coming weekend. Get your tickets. If you can't be here, you're not in New Mexico, join us on Hockey TV for the game. It's going to be very exciting. It's 7:30 p.m. on Friday night. That's Mountain Time. That's 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, or 7 p.m. Mountain Time on Saturday. So get your tickets or get Hockey TV and watch this new team that's coming back.
Dan, I couldn't have said better myself. It's going to be a huge weekend here in Albuquerque, New Mexico at the Outpost Ice Arenas. Thanks so much for joining us here on our second ever episode of Inside the Pack, or brand new podcast here for all things New Mexico Ice Wolves, and not just that, really talking about hockey in general or anything else, but there was so much to talk about from this past weekend. I mean, we probably rambled on a little bit too longer than we maybe have liked. Again, thanks so much for tuning in to episode number 2 of Inside the Pack. For Dan Webster, I'm Michael Wazinski. Have a great rest of your day.